I felt trapped into this body, being human, being fragile, being powerless. And this made me angry, and this made me cry. It was this poor life force anger coming out of this inner depth, rising. It's end of winter, and while there is still some snow on the mountains, the light is getting stronger and spring is just around the corner. It's the time of the year where everything starts blossoming again. It's not yet here, but we can feel it growing underneath the surface. We can feel its energy, its life force. My rune of this year is Aivas, which is about transformation. There's a sleeping giant, a sleeping dragon inside me, which is awakening. Old myths tell us about those ancient creatures, which existed since the beginning of time, even before gods inhabited the world. There are different names for them: giants, dragons, titans. They represent raw life force, vitality, power, ecstasy, inner knowing, soul depth, and our spiritual agency, which is our natural heritage, like the runes, which carry ancient wisdom. Our modern way of living disconnects us from this life force and this inner wisdom. The Dragonpower, the inner giant, is banned into the shadow. I especially fell asleep to my anger. There are two paths which help me to reconnect. One is nature, being in contact with my wild spirit, the seasons, the rhythms of life, being in the forest and in the flow, feeling the earth, the wind, the snow and the sun, listening to the spirits of the trees, the spirit of the mountain, and the non-verbal parts of myself, my gut feeling, the voice of my dragon, which exists beyond narratives. The second path is diving into my soul space, my inner sanctuary, getting in contact with my mystical nature. I went to an old monastery here in Austria, Stift Gurk or Gurk Abbey. I descended into the Crypt, a place full of atmosphere. A female saint called Hammer is buried here. She founded her own monastery. And even though she was Christian, I bet she was in contact with her Dragonpower, her inner giant, which is part of our soul. And when we are awake to this inner fire, we are creative and we can shine into the world.
It wasn't a thought, it wasn't an inner picture I had, and it didn't happen on purpose. It happened in my everyday life. I was out of touch with my life force, with my vital force. This heavy feeling in my body dragging me down to the earth. Even though I was quite happy and satisfied with my life situation, I felt this heaviness and this sadness and this lack of vitality, and also my creativity and all those things, they were stuck in this rut. So it started with a feeling. It started with a feeling. And I told my partner, I want to feel lighthearted again. I want to feel inspired. I want to feel this positive light energy again. I looked inside and got in contact with myself, and I felt, no, this is wrong. There is something inside myself which wants to be seen. What's the non-verbal, raw root of this feeling? And what came out was the voice of my inner giant, the voice of my inner dragon. It was a shadow voice coming out of this inner depths, and it was dragging me down. It was uh, like, uh, and it was this feeling of anger and disgust and heaviness and also sadness. And it wanted to be seen. And once I gave him a voice, it was this pure life force, anger, coming out of this inner depth, rising, which wants to move things away from you and wants to move the world, and it wants to. This was coming out of my rather small body. I'm not a big person. I'm quite tiny, and I'm a woman, and my body was shaking and moved by this energy, by this life energy. So I expressed my anger, non-verbal. I didn't talk about it like I talk now, it was just coming out of my body. And my partner, he witnessed this all the time, and he helped me to hold this energy and to be with it. And this was very important for me, because if he had rejected me, or if he had told me, oh, it's ugly what you're doing, and I don't like you this way, and it looks awful, and why can't you be like, this nice girly vibe that I also have? Why can't you be inspirational and nice? This life force inside myself, it would have felt rejected, and it wouldn't have been possible for me to express it this way and to go into it. After that, of course, I was reflecting about it, and I talked about it with my partner, and I searched words to give it a name. This is not always easy, because connecting this inner life force, this raw life force energy with the word anger, this is not that easy. Then we also talked about narratives. It was very, very helpful to talk about giants, to talk about dragons, and to dive into our mythology, to dive into the Greek and the Nordic and the German mythology. We talked about a giant called Fafner, who murdered his brother and turned into a dragon and then got killed by Siegfried. I got in contact with very old memories of my childhood. And I remembered when I was a child, 3 or 4 years old, I thought that I could magically move things, even planets. I can move the world with my willpower. And I also thought that when I sit on the rug in our living room, that when I just think about it with my will, that I can fly on this rug. I thought that I can fly and that I can move things. It's like remembering my soul not being confined to this body. And once I found out as a child that I cannot fly, that this doesn't work, that I cannot move things with my willpower, that I cannot make like this and things move. Once I found that out, I remember getting very angry. I remember myself crying. I started to cry with anger. I felt trapped into this body, being human, being fragile, being powerless. And this made me angry, and this made me cry. It was devastating. And now, at this moment, once I got in contact with this dragon power and with this giant inside myself, I also remembered those situations when I was a child and when I started to fall asleep to those inner wishes, to this inner kind of power, to this anger. It was so disappointing and so devastating to feel this that I fell asleep to it. And this is what happens to Enneagram type 9. The Enneagram is a system which describes personality types. And with the gut triad, and especially Enneagram type 9, they fall asleep to their own anger, to their life force, which is your feeling of power and which is also connected with your spiritual agency, with your spiritual sovereignty, and with having this feeling, okay, I am owning my spirituality. When you fall asleep to yourself and to your life energy, to your power, to your inner dragon, it literally means getting tired, losing life energy, but it also means falling asleep to your dearest wishes, to your dreams, to your willpower, to your inspiration, to your identity, to your true being. You forget parts of your soul. They live in a shadow world. You forget about them and you don't have access to them. And with this, you don't have access to your creativity, to some of your talents, to parts of your willpower, to feeling important, and so on and so on. What does regaining this power mean? It means becoming more awake. More awake in a sense that you regain vitality, you regain strength. I feel full of energy. I can move things and I can do things. And once I lose this energy, and this happens, by the way, it's not one time you reconnect, then you're connected, and then you're full of energy and your life has changed. No, this process is ongoing. It happens all the time. Me losing myself, losing energy, regaining this energy, and back and forth and back and forth. Once I'm connected with this energy, once I'm connected with my inner dragon, with my inner giant, I feel vitalized. I have more power. You can set boundaries to things or people which are not good for you. You don't have to think about it. Oh, is it right to set boundaries? Oh, what about my image? How do other people think? No, you just do it out of your gut instinct because you know it's good for me and it's the right thing to do in this situation, to set a boundary and to say no. In the spiritual scene, it's often very important to set boundaries if you want to own your spirituality and not live the spirituality of somebody else. You don't want to follow a guru, a teacher, or someone else who tells you something. Of course, you can learn from everybody, but deep inside yourself, you know that you are the one deciding how to interpret your experiences and the spirit world. You know this with your gut instinct and with your own intuition. And you stand up for your values. And you realize that spirituality, it's not about social codes, about following this group and dressing and talking like this group says. Then you're a truly spiritual person. Once you're connected to your life force and to your gut energy, you know what's the right type of spirituality for you. You know what kind of meditations or spiritual practices are for you, or if you even don't need any spiritual practices because you are a mystic by nature. Let's talk about this process once again. First step is feeling it with your body, getting in contact with your feelings, with your inner world, with your soul space, with your inner pictures, with your intuition, with this raw force. You have to feel it before you can talk about it. It happens on this raw, embodied gut level. And the second step is to reflect about it, to think about it, to find words and narratives. So for me, it was very important to find the word giant, to find the word dragon, because it gives this raw bodily power another image and another form where you can also visualize it and talk about it in a symbolic way. You can form narratives around it, and you can also do research in existing narratives. It was so important for me to read about dragons and to read about giants and to talk with my partner about the Greek mythology and the Nordic mythology and to dive into this cultural heritage also. Those old mythologies, they are beyond morals. And that's good because this life force, it's beyond morals. And this doesn't mean that you now have to become a bad person and you will become ruthless and you will kill people or you will do bad things. No, you can also use it for good things according to your values. But the force itself is beyond morals. And when you want to get in contact with it, narratives which moralize won't help you. They won't help you. The essence of life force is beyond morals. And by the way, this applies also to our soul and to soul space. It's also beyond morals, beyond good and bad. It just is. And it wants to make different experiences in life, good and bad. And at the end of my videos, I usually talk about the symbol of this video. And for this video, I have 5 symbols, 4 runes here, 4 runes, and 1 tarot card. The first one is rune Urus. This rune is about raw life energy, instinct, vitality, the wild power inside us. It's the rune for rewilding, a rune which is connected to the element earth. Very grounded and deep, and it's this voice coming out like it's a bit like a cave, you see? A cave and a door into another dimension, the door which leads to the cave where the giant and the dragons live. This is rune Turisas. It's the rune of the giants. It's the rune of the raw forces of nature which existed before the gods existed. There existed another type of gods, and it was giants, it was forces of nature, it was titans, gods which are not tamed. Yeah, like the Olympic gods like Zeus, Athene, Hera, Artemis, they are gods of culture. And this rune is about the gods or the giants of the wild, of the forces of nature. This rune is also the rune which is most connected with anger, with setting boundaries. So this rune you can use in the worst cases because it can also be destructive. It's not an easy rune, but you can use it to set very strong boundaries and to stand up for yourself, to be in contact with your anger. It's also about breaking through, like if you imagine a volcano or a thunderstorm. This is also the energy of this rune. Rune Ivas. It's a rune which is connected to the tree of life. And the tree of life, it connects different worlds. It's connecting earth and heaven. It's connecting shadow and light. And it's also the rune of the dragons, because the dragons, they can travel between the worlds. It's also a transformative rune. So if you go through this process of connecting with your dragon power, with your life force, this rune helps you to transform yourself. It's a rune of transformation. Last rune for this dragon and giant power. Oh, it's not visible here. The sun, or like this. It's rune Sovilo. And this rune, it's about the sun. It's about the power of the sun. It's about your inner fire, your energy, about being successful, about shining into the world. It's about radiance, it's about expression, it's about light, it's about being present in the world and shining into the world with your inner fire, with your inner light, showing your inner light and expressing it. Now I come to the tarot card of this video. This tarot card is called Strength or Lust. Yeah, it's both. In the Crowley Tarot, the Tod Tarot, it's called Lust, but it's also Strength. Because lust and strength and anger, they are connected with each other. You cannot understand this on a mental level. You have to feel it with your gut. It's felt sense. And if you feel it, you know it. This card is about the integration of your animal force. And this animal force can be your inner dragon and ancient giants. And on this card, it's the lion. So on this card, there's a woman riding a lion. And that's also very interesting because some narratives, which I don't like, they talk about killing the dragon, killing the lion, killing the animal. And this is not good for us. If we try to kill our inner animal, then we lose our power. We lose the power of this force. Much better is riding the animal, riding the lion, riding the dragon, using the giant to build things. You know, the giants, they built the temple for the gods because they're so strong, they can build beautiful things if you use them and if you have access to them. In your hand, she holds the Holy Grail. It's not only about the animal force, it's also about the soul and about your emotions and about your soul space and about being connected to this deep inner mystic space. This woman, she's in ecstasy. And if you feel it, you know it. If you are in contact with this inner life force, it feels ecstatic. It's not only bad, it's not only anger and destructive forces, it can be deep joy and ecstasy. And with this, you are also connected with your creativity, with your ability to be creative in the world. Thank you for listening.